and they're watching live. That means
all of them.
I looked at last week's episode when we figured out that there's a place called vaudeville, but I didn't patent anything or get it copyrighted. Totally dropped the ball on that one.
Yeah, that's okay. Because we are about to be destroyed by dinosaurs from the moon.
What? Wait,
yeah. No,
is this a meme?
Everybody's talking about it, Brian.
Yeah. Like 50-50 chance this is a thing that people are talking about, and I'm just out of the loop.
And I did totally just make it up, but you can't tell anymore.
No, you can't. Life comes at you pretty fast.
You're like, what meme am I missing? Where was this from?
Yeah.
Well, now it can be a meme.
Oh, you know what?
Please.
I might be streaming to the wrong stream. Oh, people are saying we are live. Thank goodness. Dylan Theus, what a hero. There we go. G. James B.
Dylan Theus.
Ultra hero.
Ship of Theseus.
There we go. Ryan in Minneapolis. Now we're going. We got it.
Hollow. That's a wonderful dessert.
Okay. If we are ready to begin, sir.
Let's do it.
Yes. 3, 2. Oh, you know what? Actually, here, I'll put it on you. And then I'll go. Oh, actually, now I'll do that. And now I can hit record. Watch this. And. Oh, that's terrible. No. Too quiet.
An AI could do better.
Too quiet. I mean, eventually that'll be like saying the most obvious thing. You forgot to turn on the AI.
Yeah, right.
Okay, here we go. For reals. Recording in 3, 2.
Oh, we gone and did it, everybody. The world of entertainment was turned upside down by us. We picked it up by its little handles and we dumped it all out. And now we're like, oh, crap. How do we find out how to watch what we want, where we want, whenever we want? I'm Tom Merritt. Brian, where's the good stuff?
Yeah, it's a little bit like we're like, I hate the pipes that the clean water comes from. Let's destroy all these pipes. And we're like, whew, I really could use some water after all that. I really burnt up a sweat.
This water's just a tiny bit dirty. Let's kill all the pipes.
Oh man.
I actually think the water was not very good before. I think the water might be better now. It's just a little more complicated to get a drink of it. That's all.
Somewhere out there is a nice, crisp, clean glass of water, and we're out to find it here in Cordkillers Reckoning.
Indeed. In this desert of entertainment. But before that happens, we have to make it through the AI guardians of content.
Oh boy.
We'll explain in the supply run.
Supply run.
Have you heard about ByteDance's Seedance?
Have I ever?
Seedance or Seed Ants or however you say it.
All I know is that it made waves. The first time I saw it, where were you when you saw your first Seedance prompt? Mine was a regular night at Waffle House. Make it stupid and so it gets 50 likes. And then what was there was like, it was like straight out of John Wick or Nobody, just over the top wrestling battle royale in a Waffle House. What about you?
Yeah. Well, I like most people, was first exposed to Seedance by Irish filmmaker Ruairi Robinson's 15-second video of Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise in a fight scene. I saw first headlines about, you won't believe that this 2-line prompt made this amazing fight scene. And I thought, I don't know, I've seen 2-line prompts on Sora do a pretty good job of that. What's this one look like? And when I looked at it, I said, that one is probably better than what Sora has been able to do up till now, but I can still sort of tell that it's not an actual Brad Pitt, Tom Cruise fight scene. I think I'd be able to tell if I wasn't aware that it was Seedance that created it. But boy, was I alone in that reaction. Everyone else had their hair literally on fire. MPA CEO Charles Rivkin is fine. The fire has been put out, but he did write in a statement that ByteDance should immediately cease its infringing activity by launching a service that operates without meaningful safeguards against infringement. ByteDance is disregarding well-established copyright law that protects the rights of creators and underpins millions of American jobs. Of course, that's because it's Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt without their permission. Disney and Paramount both sent cease and desist letters to ByteDance. Japan's AI minister. Pause for a moment. Brian, did you realize Japan has a minister just for AI?
I mean, if anybody's going to have a minister of AI, what country do you suspect would have already a minister of AI?
I didn't look it up, but I wonder how many decades that
right. They probably had it since Speed Racer came out.
But anyway, Japan's AI minister, Kimi Onoda, sought to protect popular anime and manga characters, officially launching a probe last week into ByteDance. Just a little background there. Japan and China are at each other's throats right now. So Japan picking on a Chinese company has some other context to it. But Monday, ByteDance issued the following statement, Brian. We are taking steps to strengthen current safeguards as we work to prevent the unauthorized use of intellectual property and likenesses by users. So they already had the safeguards. They just need to strengthen them, Brian. It's not their fault.
So there are certainly issues to be discussed here, because
and I've got a few others, but go ahead.
Well, do we want to play in this space or keep on going to the? You know what? Everybody, with your comments, put a pin in it. Let's go on to the next story.
Deadpool writer Rhett Reese wrote in response to Ruairi Robinson's original post. In next to no time, one person is going to be able to sit at a computer and create a movie indistinguishable from what Hollywood now releases. True, if that person is no good, it will suck. But if that person possesses Christopher Nolan's talent and taste, and someone like that will rapidly come along, it will be tremendous. So he's saying, like, game over. A good prompt writer will be able to make an amazing movie. Which, of course, leads us to remind you that SAG-AFTRA is negotiating a fee to be paid to the union every time a generated actor is used instead of a human, not a likeness fee. They already got that. This is called the Tilly tax because it refers to wholly generated people. So if you use a wholly generated person like Tilly, the wholly generated actor, you have to pay the union, even though the generated actor is not in the union. Meanwhile, in practice, the tools are still hard to use. See Darren Aronofsky's recent AI-generated historical docudrama. Speaking anonymously to ours, one source close to that production confirmed that it took weeks to produce minutes of usable video using a variety of AI tools. And in response to the backlash over the video, Ruairi Robinson wrote, "Today's question is, should I be killed for typing 2 lines and pressing a button?" So lots of different directions we can go here, Brian. There's the, do humans need to get paid as a union when you generate something that looks like an actor? Yeah, these things look great, but is it actually still harder than it looks? What do you think?
So I think that, number one, I watched some of these today in 1776, which appears to be, it's going to be a weekly series of things that happened. It is very clearly AI and looks like a Mid-Journey thing. And I'm certain that the tools were ridiculous to make happen anything of substance. But I think that the visceral reaction is fueled, it's powered by, this is why branding categories matter. This is why when we understand what a thing is, we know when it's not up to standards. So yeah, if this is a movie, it's a very bad historical drama movie, a very bad docuseries. If I was paying my hard-earned money for Netflix and sat down and watched this, I would feel like somebody phoned in stuff in. But if this is commensurate to the level of effort that was in there, if this is an article and I was trying to remember the general facts of if the goal is to know where things stood emotionally in 1776 in this week, you could write a lot of words and I could cram all of that information, run it through the narrow pipeline of Broca's area, or you could show me moving pictures that capture the feeling of that moment for about the same amount of effort, in which case this is superior. Now, the problem is we don't have a word for what that is yet. We don't have a concept of it. We haven't all agreed that we understand what this is. And as a result, we feel akimbo, and we can't tell. It's akin to seeing a magic trick, but never having heard of a concept of a magic show. If you went to what you thought was a theatrical production and all of a sudden, stuff is happening that you can't explain, you might be straight up angry, except for if you knew that there is such a thing called a magic show that's kind of like a game of chess between a performer who claims to have magical powers but with a wink, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that is some of the irritation there. How does that land with you, Tom?
Yeah, I think it's kind of, I would say to think of it this way. When you watch a cartoon, you generally don't say, that doesn't look anything like a real person. You understand, like, oh, this is a drawing. It's not meant to be photorealistic. It's meant to be giving me the impression of something. And I think that's kind of what you're saying is, if we go into it knowing, oh, wait a minute, this is a generated video to give me an idea, that 1776 documentary is impressive. And you see the effort that went into it that makes it look kind of like that would happen. And coming from that lens, you're going to be impressed. Kind of like we were impressed by 1080p when it first came along, and then we got used to it. If you're coming at it saying, I would like it to look exactly like an actual television production, no, it's not quite there yet. And that's kind of the way I felt about the Tom Cruise Brad Pitt fight, which was like, hey, as a demonstration of what Seedance could do, pretty darn impressive. This is going to replace movies, I'm not sure that it can do that. I think what got people's I almost said eggs wagging. I don't know why they're eggs.
No, eggs wagging is now a real phrase. We're going to retcon it. We've always said it. I remember you used to have a real egg swagger about you, man. You were King Egg Swag of Cluckadoo Mountain.
And I think what got people's eggs wagging this time was that Seedance doesn't need as much prompting. You can put a storyboard in there and say, turn this into a video, and it will. You can just write a scenario and it will carry it out, which is something that Sora and VO have not been able to do now because they're the previous generation. Their big deal was like, wow, I can describe something and it'll turn it into a video. Now Seedance is like, I can describe a scenario and it will turn it into a video. But just like everybody said when VO came out, oh my gosh, this is going to ruin everything. And then pretty soon everybody's like, this is not as good as Sora. Now everybody's like, oh no, Seedance is going to ruin everything. But Sora is not as good as Seedance. Something else is going to come along. Will we get there eventually where you can create something from, whole cloth just by typing it in? Sure. And that's when I become agreeing with the Rhett Reese, the Deadpool writer, is that, at some point the tool will get there. And then it will become a question of, are they a Chris Nolan level storyteller or whoever you want to plug in there? And what's the best combination of humans and machines to make the output? But I don't think this is as easy as like, they made something that kind of looks convincingly like Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise fighting. I guess we should just pack up all movie making and go home.
So I've been thinking a little bit about a way to simplify what bucket to put us in AI, because the discourse is, again, I refuse to engage directly because no two people, when they're arguing about AI, are arguing about the same thing. But I think that a simple statement of where you and I have been, and I don't think we've changed on this, is 100% pro-human. But where that gets confusing, 100, like we're on the side of humans, but the problem with AI,
if I have a bias, it's towards humans.
Well, but this matters because I think that the Deadpool producer tweet is a really good example of what he's expressing is AI as a tool. Now, you could be overly reductive and say it's humans versus AI, which makes no sense to my mind. But in the case of if you're pro-human, are you pro the humans who are established in power and have attracted gatekeeping barriers and a machine factory where young, beautiful bodies move to the West Coast to get used and abused their way up a ladder so that they can shine and go? Or are you in favor of the humans at the populist level who have just as good as stories and want to come from the outside? I will probably be sympathetic to the quieted voices in that scenario. And if AI is the tool that allows them, somewhere locked out there is the perfect movie that I want to see. And I hope industrious people get on the map. And if AI is the tool, then that's fine. But does that track is like universally pro-human when in doubt? And if AI is the tool that enables other humans to compete ethically in the marketplace of talented ideas and arts, then I'm a full-on populist in that regard.
Yeah, I think the real problem is that pro-human is just as broad and therefore almost meaningless as pro-AI. Because what happens is let's say I start with the argument, which I've done before. In fact, I did it recently at the bar. I am not pro or con screwdriver. I am for using the screwdriver to tighten the screws on the light switch plate over there to make sure it doesn't fall off the wall. I am con using the screwdriver to stab somebody, right? And then I have now turned AI in my head in this argument to a tool. AI is a tool. But someone else can come and say like, yeah, but it's throwing a bunch of people out of jobs. Your screwdriver never threw people out of jobs.
Yeah, no, it's the people who are throwing the people out of jobs.
And well, but that's the thing is because AI is so broad, I can pick a lane and have an argument there and someone else can go, aha, but I am going to use an example that's outside of the lane you picked because AI is so broad. And same thing goes with saying I'm pro-human. Everything you said is perfectly reasonable in a lane for pro-human, but someone else can say, but I am pro-human in that I don't want the machines to kill us all because AI could become super intelligent and then become against us. And you tried to kind of fend against that, but the playing ground is just too broad. So if someone says you're pro-AI, I generally go like, I'm not pro or against AI. What are we talking about?
Right.
Then I can tell you whether I'm for or against it. And not even just which tool, like which technology. Are we talking about machine learning? Are we talking about large language models? But what usage of it are we talking about? Because then it gets back to the screwdriver thing of, yeah, if a company says, I am going to use a large language model to fire all the writers and reap in all the money myself, I would be against that. I also think it wouldn't be a very smart thing for the studio to do, which people think accuse me of being naive for saying, but I'm like, sometimes in the short term, people who do stupid, greedy things win. But if you look at human history, generally in the long term, they don't, and they don't have the staying power. Doesn't mean I like it when they do win in the short term, but the actual smart long-term thinking people, and they are there in business even, will choose the thing where they're like, what if I kept the writers and had them use the LLMs to figure out what they are helpful for, but I don't force them to use them. I just say, try using them. Let me know what they're good for. Then I think maybe we come up with better uses for technology.
Yeah, Jason in the YouTube chat pointed out that movies are collaborative and often have organic input through the shooting.
Oh, yeah.
This feels more like making something in an echo chamber, which is accurate. That's the other thing, is we're watching all of humanity become sophisticated consumers of this new type of tool. And as a result, we're all at different levels. This is why if I can, reclaim my throne at the perch of Smug Mountain. Like I watched all of this in the world of magic. Magicians, young magicians tend to go through what I'm seeing all of society go through, where they get an easy button. It's a marked deck of cards or something. And then they use it. And then they encounter another wizard who's like, marked deck of cards, huh? And then they feel shame. And then they go and they learn to do all the skillful stuff. And then they're like, nobody could bust me. But then meanwhile, non-magicians are, you flashed. And then they're like, dang it, the right answer is to use marked decks of cards, but add an extra step that discounts marked decks of cards. We're watching that meta unfold globally right now, and it's very surreal. And
I end up coming off as defending AI a lot because I'm usually talking to people who are upset about it. So Ambassador Domo is, and you haven't even brought up the resource waste. And I'm like, yeah, there's another lane. There's another section where we can have a discussion of right now. It does look like the usage could be irresponsible. It's not yet. That's key number one, and that's not defending it. And there are clear ways to make sure it isn't. That is hey, if they do it. And so I'm sort of in this middle ground where if I'm talking to someone who's like, I hate AI because it's resource wasteful, I'll say, well, it's not yet. And if we do it right, it won't be, and actually could create some good infrastructure. And they think, oh, Tom's pro AI. If I'm talking to some tech bro who's like, AI is great, there's no negatives to it, it'll grow forever, I'm like, yeah, but we have to do it responsibly. Like if we just throw up data centers, we will make the environment worse. We will waste water, we will waste energy, and we'll drive up electricity prices. And they're like, oh, you're such a anti-AI doomer, you know, but I'm not changing my position. It's just based on what I'm talking to.
Yeah. Consistent. That's what we've been, Tom. Consistent. Mostly right for coming on 20 years.
So mostly right. Like we are the mostly right people out there.
I mean, don't count the number of fingers that we have on our hands, but give or take, we're pretty much right a lot.
Almost all the time. More than anyone else.
Yeah. Mesha on YouTube asks
us at patreon.com/Cordkillers.
Yeah, patreon.com/Cordkillers. Real quick, Mesha in YouTube asks, how did the conversation look in 10, 20 years? Man, that is what we have been thinking of. There is plenty of things that we could be wrong about, but I hope my pro-enabling the voice of the disenfranchised position ages as well as my pro-rethinking the rules of teaching magic on the internet, because, Tom, there were a lot of magicians who felt like Brian Brushwood should not be teaching magic on the internet. But Brian Brushwood felt like more people should learn magic tricks besides rich, white, offspring of males. There should be structures that don't involve middle-aged men explaining to 14-year-old boys the importance of keeping a secret. Those negative externalities were incompatible. And so, yeah, a lot of magicians hated Brian for teaching magic online, but ultimately there's a whole crop. Oh, so mostly right, Tom. You and I have been so mostly tight. Right.
30 years ago, I was saying, I think the internet is going to be a great thing and a great leveler and open up avenues for people to make content that never could have been made otherwise. 20 years ago, I was so right. And everyone was patting me on the back. Tom, you're so right. Look at all the amazing content that gets made and the independent creators. And then 10 years ago, people were like, Tom, you're an irresponsible jerk. You pushed people to go onto the internet, and now it is ruining society. So I don't know. In another 10 years, that conversation comes around and goes around. And it'll be interesting to see what those conversations are in the future.
Keep talking, Tom.
I will keep talking on the internet forever. I will never stop. And you may say, Tom, that's impossible. At some point, even if you don't die, even if you are an immortal alien, as some have accused you of, you will just run out of breath. You'll run out of things to say. There will be a point where your brain just seizes up and you'll say, I don't know what to say next. And the fact of the matter is, no, that day will never come. Why? Because you are supporting me at patreon.com/Cordkillers. In fact, even if no one supported me at patreon.com/Cordkillers, I'd still have something to say. And that something would be so compelling that someone out there would say, gosh, it's weird that nobody supports Tom and Brian at patreon.com/Cordkillers, and they would support me. And there is the logical paradox in which we live, Brian.
That sounds right to me. Tom, I'm going to be having a mysterious angle for a little bit while I wait for this camera to charge enough to boot back up. But in the meantime, should we move on to the supply run? Or no,
Let's do.
Oh, no, the next one.
Search party. All right, we got the numbers. An average 124.9 million viewers watched the Super Bowl, down from 127.7 million last year, but still a lot of people, a whole lot of people. Viewership peaked during the second quarter of the game, between 7:45 and 8 p.m. Eastern with an average of 137.8 million. Halftime show had an average of 128.2 million. That was down from Kendrick Lamar's record, 133.5. However, keep in mind that 3.3 million watched on Telemundo, making it the most watched Super Bowl in U.S. Spanish language broadcast history. 4.8 million watched the halftime show on Telemundo. Meanwhile, the Puppy Bowl pulled in 5.3 million viewers across Animal Planet, Discovery, TBS, True TV, HBO Max, and Discovery Plus. It was the Puppy Bowl's best performance since 2018 and a 20% increase over last year. So I think we know who the winner of the Super Bowl was. It was the Puppy Bowl.
Yeah, dude. That's finally something to bark about. Whole about.
I wonder if there's a little bit of an effect of people hearing about arguments over the Super Bowl and arguments over the Super Bowl halftime and just saying, you know what I'd rather do? I'd rather just watch the Puppy Bowl because then I don't have to get in an argument. Everyone likes puppies. And you got 5.3 million viewers tuning into the Puppy Bowl. In fact, Super Bowl Sunday, we had gone out and we're coming back and we're getting out of our car and a neighbor was walking by with their dogs and we're like, you're missing the Puppy Bowl. I'm like, oh yeah, no, they replay it. We'll be watching it. No one was talking about the Super Bowl, at least out on the street. So there you go.
Do you think that somebody sponsored like a anti-Puppy Bowl, cat bowl or something like to run?
Have you watched the Puppy Bowl?
I have in the past.
They incorporate cats.
Oh, do they?
They incorporate birds. They have actually started incorporating like all the pets people might have just for that purpose.
Yeah.
To make sure nobody does start an alternate cat bowl out there. Okay, so the Muppet Show made one episode with the idea that if it did well, they might make more. And turns out, Brian, the Muppet Show racked up 7.58 million multi-platform viewers across Disney Plus and ABC in its first 8 days after the premiere on February 4th.
So we talked a bit, we marveled openly at the way Netflix counts views like a boss compared to everybody else. You know, Netflix, a view is 60 viewer minutes if it's an hour-long program or whatever. Do we know? I just realized I'm doing the thing where I'm treating Tom like a Google. Have we previously spoken about whether or not Disney just does like people who tuned in? I think that's an excellent
point, Brian. And from the sources that I can see, you're right in asking it. I'm going to answer you like ChatGPT.
You didn't just ask the question. You bellowed it.
You nailed it. I don't know, and I'll explain why I don't think it matters in this case. It's always an interesting question, don't get me wrong, because if you're wanting to do apples to apples comparisons, you're going to want to know that. But this is a Nielsen number, and you can say, 7.58 million multi-platform viewers by Nielsen compared to other Nielsen numbers is very, very good. That is something you don't get from most television programs. So if we're just looking for, do we think this got enough viewers for Disney to justify making more of them? It looks like the answer is yes. How it relates to the Netflix numbers, I don't know.
I'm now in profile for everybody in audio land. I'm slowly moving.
I will also sit in profile now, but pointed in the same direction as Brian. So
we already look too much alike. I'm not comfortable with what's happening right now.
What happened if I go this way?
Oh, there we go. All right. Now it at least makes sense. We look like
now we're actually talking to each other.
We're on Sunday afternoon broadcast equal time programming. So, okay, this is a great use case. I love the heuristic shortcut that you just opened, Tom, because previously I think I asked like why release Nielsen numbers? Because they used to be, ultimately they were just for ad reach proxies. But then in this case, like those are Nielsen numbers, which means they're uniform across the board, which I like.
Yeah. And honestly, the reason Nielsen numbers get released in part is because Nielsen wants people to pay them for their numbers. So if you see Nielsen being bandied about as a standard, and you're an ad buyer or an ad seller, you're going to go, oh, Nielsen, that's the standard everybody uses. Let's subscribe to their platform to get their more detailed numbers. So it's always a marketing play for them as well. And then it's a way for Disney to brag and say like, hey, we did this great thing. We put out the Muppet Show and 7.5 million people watched it.
Yes, which also, all of that calculus, understand that there are very talented people whose full-time job is to, yes, look at the monetary value, but in the case of streaming, you've got to look at the behaviors and also the stated preferences. Like social media buzz matters, and people will, there are movies and television projects that had lots of talking buzz of support, but ultimately the real numbers, people didn't ultimately watch it, which, maybe that doesn't even matter in terms of number of subscriptions. Maybe that's the best of all worlds. I don't know. But I'm glad that Nielsen is on the case.
I can also tell you didn't watch The Muppet Show.
No, I didn't. Why?
Because you've not once made any kind of analysis of the show was good or not good. I'm surprised or not surprised. And I did watch it, and I thought, I think this is only going to appeal to people who used to watch The Muppet Show, because it's a very good modern take of The Muppet Show. But I don't know if you've never seen The Muppet Show and don't have nostalgia for it, if you would enjoy it as much. But apparently,
that was congruent with the chatter that I saw on Twitter. Somebody described it as clearly being made for parents who loved it, who wanted their kids to love it. And the person speculated that, spoiler alert, the kids would not love it.
That kind of doesn't look like it matters. If that's the case, there's enough of those parents out there.
They're doing, have they announced more?
They have not. No, okay. We just got the numbers now, so we haven't heard of any kind of green light on any more of these. We do have a green light for new episodes of MST3K, Mystery Science Theater 3000. It is conducting a Kickstarter for another round of episodes, this time in collaboration with Riff Tracks. So former MST3K Riff Tracksers, Mike Nelson, Kevin Murphy, Bill Corbett, Trace Beaulieu, Pearl Forrester, and Frank Conniff also are going back to the Satellite of Love for 4 episodes. Mike Nelson and Kevin Murphy and Bill Corbett do Riff Tracks, and then Joel Hodgson and friends did Cinematic Titanic, and then rebooted MST3K with Joel. And now they're kind of following the path of the original MST3K, and they're going to do Mike episodes now. So I don't know, Brian, if you have the soft feelings for MST3K or not, but it looks like we'll get more of them with Mike.
Well, the big thing that it implies is that there's no rivalry, or at least there's manageable rivalry between everyone in the various phases. Like, it sounds like good blood all around.
Joel did sell the rights to a production company, and now they are bringing Mike, but Joel's on board with it and saying nice things about it. So I don't know if it's more like, well, if I'm not going to be on it, let someone else do the harder work. And then they bring in Mike for 4 episodes. I got on board with MST3K before Mike joined. Mm-hmm. So I always think of Joel as the real one, but it was interesting. This article from Ars Technica was from a guy who got on board when Mike was hosting, and he's always thought of that as the real one. So he's excited about this. I always thought Mike did a great job too, though.
Yeah.
ABC has released the season 1 trailer for the upcoming reboot of Scrubs, bringing back the original cast with new interns. So it's sort of continuous from the original Scrubs, but a whole new premise. First season set to premiere Wednesday, February 25th on ABC, and then show the next day on Hulu/Disney Plus.
Very cool. I continue to try to reboot this camera.
Yeah. I'm guessing you didn't watch a whole lot of Scrubs. So
no. I think that, there's that college halo. I think Scrubs started just as many people go to college, and then there's just a 5-year black hole of pop culture where they're off experiencing the world.
Yeah. For me, it was the later years of Cheers, and the launch of A Different World, which I did watch in college, but and Twin Peaks came out around that time. So there were exceptions that broke through, like A Different World and Twin Peaks, which is why I mentioned them, but everything else that came out then I didn't see.
Yeah.
Deadline says Apple has acquired the IP and all rights to Severance from the production company Fifth Season, which produced the first 2 seasons. Apple Studios will produce with Fifth Season folks staying on as executive producers. Apple did the same thing, taking over Silo from AMC Studios after season 1. It seemed like Fifth Season was just having to rely on Apple for a lot of funding and connections and things. And Apple said, hey, look, what if we just owned it and did all that stuff, and you guys can be EPs and do that kind of stuff.
To be honest,
really good at.
Like at this point, if they are a prestige company town hit, and so if they want to be a wholly owned company town run thing, then that gets the art brains 100% dialed in on their liminal spaces for days. Man, season 4, they introduced beige. It'll be amazing.
White Lotus season 4 has added Sandra Bernhard to the cast. So we now have Sandra Bernhard, Helena Bonham Carter, Steve Coogan, Caleb Jonty Edwards, Marissa Long, Alexander Ludwig, Chris Messina, and AJ Michalka on board. I imagine there'll be a few more castings yet to come. Any White Lotus thoughts?
No. I feel like I have to hold my tongue. I'm in a weird superposition with season 3. Did you watch season 3?
I did, yeah, and I enjoyed it.
Okay, did you like it enough that because I heard, again, started a couple episodes to try to catch up, and then I heard enough, I don't know, and then I never really heard any full-throated, go for it, it's great after that.
I would say it's worth binging, and you will have a satisfactory conclusion, and it is different than the first 2.
Mm-hmm.
But if what you want out of White Lotus is that feeling of surprise you got in season 1, that you got a little bit of an echo in season 2, this is going to be a problem for White Lotus for you, because that surprise is never going to come again because you're watching White Lotus. So you kind of know the outlines of what to expect.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Did you know Jason Momoa is going to star in Helldivers, the video game movie, coming November 10th, 2027, directed by Justin Lin?
No, I did not. But
well, now you do.
Thank you, Tom. I want everybody in audio land to know I'm being real good, not just physically getting up and running around to the other side of the computer to check cabling, but maybe I'll have time as soon.
Here's your chance, Brian.
Okay, good.
BTS's first concerts after the release from the military will stream in theaters on April 11th. That's their concert from Goyang, South Korea, a suburb of Seoul. And April 18th, that's their concert from Tokyo, which will be in a dome. They'll both be huge. They're both sold out. So if you want to watch them, you can stream them online, at least the Goyang one. But you could also go to a theater worldwide. They are going to have 2 times. There will be a time if you're in the same hemisphere as Tokyo and Seoul, where you'll be able to watch it live in the theater. Or if you're on the other side of the world, they'll have a delayed viewing so that you'll go into the theater and watch a delayed stream of it as if it were live, but at a time that's not in the middle of the night for you. And you'll be able to watch it with a bunch of other people who are fans of the group. Additional live viewing dates are supposed to be announced later in the year from some of their other locations on the tour. But this is a continuing story about, Beyonce went and did a concert in the theater. Taylor did a concert in the theater. We talked about Stray Kids winning the box office Super Bowl weekend with a concert streamed in theater. So this is a continually growing sector of theater going, is watching concerts both live and recorded.
Yeah, I apologize that I sort of blew off the idea of a comeback. Like, the more I wrap my mind around how the world went nuts when Elvis came back after his military service, and the fact that we have that comp in the wings, and now it's only more exquisitely maintained and being midwifed into being this. Tom, I'm beginning to think that this comeback of BTS is going to be a pretty big deal.
You think so?
Yeah. It's an original thought that I've had for a long time.
You know, you're the first person that I've heard go out on that limb, but I'm going to back your play.
All right. Well, mostly right for 20 years and counting. It's great.
For 20 years and counting. Young Sherlock trailer premiered on February 5th. And the reason I bring it up is it racked up 223 million views in the first 7 days, according to Wave Metrics data that was shared with Deadline. That would make it Prime Video's most watched series trailer ever in that time frame since the Wave Metrics started to create this.
Did you watch the trailer? It was the link was behind a paywall, and I missed my window to see it.
I didn't watch
okay.
it either. I was like, enough people watched it.
Yeah, I was about to say, sounds like everyone else has that covered.
Yeah. And then finally, in this section of the show, Netflix is staging a live MMA fight between Ronda Rousey and Gina Carano on May 16th from the Intuit Dome in Los Angeles, which is interesting, not only because it's another example of Netflix doing a live sporting event, but also Paramount is the exclusive home to Ultimate Fight to UFC in the US. Yeah.
Yeah. What an interesting in the Family Feud happening. These are like two cousins off in the corner. They're like, I don't know. It's weird for me too.
Yeah. So that's probably going to be a big deal because in the world of MMA, a Rousey Carano fight has been something, will they, won't they, for several years, apparently. So this is a bit of a coup for Netflix to be able to get that to happen. All right, let's move on to the buried treasure.
Most people want to know why they suddenly got rich.
Buried treasure.
Get your shovels out, folks. This is the segment of the show where we talk about something we have been watching that we think you might be interested in seeing. And what I've been watching a lot of is the Olympics on Peacock, and I've mentioned it before, but man, I think I have a theory, Brian, about why they are so good at their Olympics coverage this year versus previous years. Now, I've said before, it's like some of it is just building up the knowledge of how streaming works and all of us learning what we want out of streaming and not. But I have noticed that I basically watch the gold zone during the day because the Olympics kind of start at 1 a.m. for me. So I'm asleep. But when I get up in the morning and after I take the dog out for a walk, I'll turn on the gold zone. And the gold zone, if you don't know, just goes back and forth between the events that are live. And that runs till about 2 p.m. my time. So I'll watch that, see a bunch of the really big events happening. And then later at the end of my workday, when I have time to actually sit down, I will go to their linear fast channel section of Peacock and watch the Best of Milan Olympics channel, which will let me see all the stuff I missed, either when I was asleep or working. And then I'm done. And I've thought, I don't even really need to watch the primetime broadcast. I don't need to watch Mike Tirico, sadly. I love Mike Tirico. I think he's great, but I feel like I'm getting everything I need. And my theory, Brian, is that in the past, they hobbled Gold Zone. They hobbled streaming because they still needed to build ratings. They needed to drive people to broadcast. Now that they've spun off Versant and they're actually just losing money if you go watch it on USA because it's another company, and what they really want to do is move people to Peacock to watch. It's like, yeah, the primetime is great. That's kind of an advertisement for if you want the real coverage, go to Peacock. I think they're letting the Gold Zone fly. They're letting them do exactly what they need to do to make it compelling viewing.
So the Gold Zone, would I be right in thinking in terms of I'm going to overly YouTube metaphor this, like Gold Zone is the live feed where you don't have any expectation of any curation. They're doing
no, it's the best of both worlds. It's not just, you can go and get the live feed for every single thing happening if you want. Mm-hmm. Gold Zone is curated. It's someone saying, all right, we're going to put up 4 things right now because these are the 4 most important things.
Oh, sorry. I mean, it's
hold
definitely
on.
Oh, it's definitely directed.
We've got ice hockey playing here, but we're going to go full screen on this figure skater because this is a really important moment. And by the way, if you miss a goal while you're gone, we will play that for you as soon as the figure skating performance is done, so you're not missing a thing. And they will occasionally run a package where they're like, you know what, you really should learn about this person who just won their ski jump. Here's a 1 minute package about them. That's what I mean, where they're doing it well, because I never feel like, oh, I'd be getting a little better coverage if I was watching it in some other format. It's the best of everything.
Interesting. Like, that does a lot more of the heavy lifting. If there's a little bit of time asynchronous packaging in there, I was really struck, Tom, as we were talking about the Olympics, as far as like, it's the perfect story generation reality show. It's like on top of the idea of every country sending a tribute to go do battle, you know, in a virtual fortnight for all of humanity. But on top of that, there'll be like a random event that in and of itself is like, well, I guess that happened. But of course, you have the backstory of everybody that went into it. For example, on Reddit, there was a top clip that said Australia got its first speed skating gold. And it shows the clip of 4 people in front of the Australian all wiping out together in the same heat, and the Australian bemusedly crossing the finish line. And then meanwhile, he's up there on the very, first place, getting the gold medal with an aw shucks disposition. Can't believe this is happening. I Forrest Gumped it. And then meanwhile, Silver is looking up, shooting daggers at him with his eyes. That's a great story part 1, Australia wins. And then part 2, do we feel bad about this event? And then, of course, the story that emerges is, no, 20 years ago, that dude broke his spine, and this is an incredible success story of perseverance. Like, I don't know. I'm just fascinated by the after-the-fact sculpting of stories.
Yeah, I think that's one of the cool things about the Gold Zone, because the primetime show, because it's happening, given the time zones, with nothing live, feels very produced. Like, oh, okay, you're showing me this package because this person won, right? Whereas on the Gold Zone, there was a bobsled competitor, and they're like, we're going to go to bobsled now because Elena is about to go. And as you may have heard, she has 2 deaf children, one of whom has Down syndrome, but they're with her at these Olympics. She's 43 years old, but wanted to come back one more time, didn't want to leave her kids at home and give it another shot. Let's watch her run. And it's live. So you're like, oh, I really want her to win now. All I needed was the text. All I needed was him to tell me that. And now I'm cheering. She wins the gold. You get to see her like hug her children that you were just told about and have the tears and all of that. And then they run the package. And you're like really invested in the package because you're like, oh, I want to see her with her kids at home and what happened and why she just made this decision, because I know the story. And instead of the prime time where you're like, oh, they're showing me this package because she wins, you just experienced the whole thing live and get the backstory as well, which I think is a better way to do it, frankly.
Yeah, and I think it peels back another bit of the layer of, ultimately, we want to be invested and we want a brief moment where we genuinely don't know what's going to happen next. Ultimately, we're all just kind of gambling.
And Gold Zone is just dopamine hit on dopamine hit for that. Like, and yes, they will, at least here in the United States, they will focus on US competitors, but they'll also go to other stuff and kind of set you up like, oh, here's what's happening on the slopes here. Here's what's happening in the House of Speed there, all of that stuff. Is the Olympics the one you were going to talk about as well?
Yeah. I mean, I've really enjoyed Olympics by osmosis. Just a little bit of over-the-shoulder curling, a little bit of Reddit best of, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. No, you told me about one of the best moments in the Olympics that I didn't actually see anywhere until you told me about it, which was the short track skater that took off at the gun and went around behind, and everybody kind of forgot they were behind, and so was able to just like coast to victory. That's pretty genius.
Yeah.
Well, folks, if you got something, if you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. Brian, it's been a long road, but my book Synced is available in Pages.
Pages?
This is a new, yeah, you can have it delivered to you on a 1,000,000-year battery life display that will never run out, that you can read whenever you want.
Dude, this, congratulations. The Dead Tree edition is finally made real. That's amazing. Where can people buy it?
You can buy it wherever books are sold, Brian. That's the best part. You can go to Amazon. You could order it from a local bookstore. If they don't have it on the shelf, they can get it for you. You can also get it in ebook form and audiobook form. And if you want a EPUB or PDF of it, you can go right to the Daily Tech News Show store and get it at dailytechnewsshow.com/store. It is going to get you brushed up on all the biggest tech topics of the day. Cryptocurrency, autonomous cars, AI. What is OpenAI? Where did they come from? What is in fact a GPU? Everybody's talking about GPUs. What are they? It's all described in there. The book is called Synced, SYNCED. Know a little more about tech by Tom Merritt. Find it wherever fine books are sold. Let's move on to Scan the Horizon.
You got it.
Send a scanning crew aboard.
Scanning the horizon!
Oh, it's time for our weekly check-in on the love triangle, Brian. Paramount has found its first wingman. Ancora Holding Group, an activist investor, has come out swinging hard against Warner Brothers. So this is an investor in Warner Brothers who's against the board selling it to Netflix in favor of Paramount's takeover offer. Now, Ancora only holds less than 1% of Warner Brothers Discovery shares, but it's the first shareholder of any note to come out and say, we should switch from Netflix to Paramount. And Warner Brothers has reopened negotiations with Paramount for 7 days with Netflix's approval. Like, okay, you can go on a couple of dates, but only for a week. Warner says that the Ellison camp, David Ellison, which is the CEO of Paramount, has verbally agreed to boost its bid to $31 or higher if the two sides engaged. So Warner Brothers called his bluff and said, okay, we're engaged. Not that kind of engaged, but we'll talk. We will reopen negotiations. Warner Brothers Discovery also in an SEC filing said, Warner Brothers might experience substantial losses of employees and talent during the pre-closing period if Paramount gets the bid, because Paramount has talked about all the cost cutting. This is something that was put in the SEC filing. Now, all of this is very confusing because you don't really know what's happening. Everybody's assuming that Paramount's going to win from all the experts I see, even though Netflix has the accepted bid right now. If Paramount were to just stop, it would go to Netflix. So Warner Brothers has to tear up the Netflix agreement, which involves paying a penalty, which Paramount has said they will help pay, and get the shareholders to all switch to agreeing to a Paramount bid, which is a tall order. However, Paramount is not giving up. They are doing everything they can to convince shareholders to turn against the board. Variety notes that reopening negotiations will help bolster Warner Brothers Discovery in defending its fiduciary duty in the inevitable lawsuits that will arise over this deal. Kind of no matter who gets it, there's going to be lawsuits. So Warner Brothers wants to go and say, hey, we did everything we should have. They have not rescheduled a shareholder vote on the Netflix offer, which is scheduled for March 20th. If Netflix wins that, it's kind of a done deal, but there are still paths that Paramount says that it will follow even then. And then I thought you might find this one interesting, Brian. Paul Anka, you know, the singer, Paul Anka, he was talking to Deadline in December in an interview for other reasons. And they asked him about the whole Netflix buying Warner Brothers Discovery. And he said, who knows? Ted Sarandos is very close with David Zaslav. Zaslav is the CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. Anka said, sometimes these guys do each other a favor. It's an old Vegas trick. You want to sell a hotel? Go to your buddy and say, give me an offer. Just pretend you're in the game. And they float it out there, and it starts this bidding war. I still think it's going to be Paramount that winds up with it.
Wow. Wow.
Now, that's Paul Anka. He's not in the game, but he's not the only person who says, yeah, I think Paramount ends up with this. And you see Warner Brothers Discovery dragging their heels, but also not shutting it down. So,
well, interesting. So does that make Paramount the sap in this story? Because it makes
Yes.
Netflix like, hey man, we didn't really care anyway. Ours was a flat cash offer that we just had laying around. I mean, we would have done something with it, but in the meantime, Paramount really has to hustle. Yep. No, this sounds like a familiar tale.
And Anka goes on to say, like, Ted Sarandos has never been interested in owning a studio. They've been anti-theatrical, if anything. Like, it's very out of character for them to want to buy Warner Brothers Discovery. So I think a lot of people think like Paul Anka. And a lot of analysts who are also looking at the data think, yeah, that Paul Anka thing kind of makes sense. Like, it bears out when you look at the facts of the situation. So I don't know why my instinct tells me Netflix is going to get it, though. And against everything, against all reason, my gut feeling is that Netflix ends up with it. And I don't know why.
Yeah. I mean, Netflix is the less confusing thread to follow. Nope. That's not true.
Is it, you think like my brain is just like, I don't want to deal with the complexity. Please let it be Netflix.
I think that in our mental map of the story, there's entire giant strata to it that you and I are not privileged to know things about, but we know that Netflix has an awful lot of cash, and we know that that this would be a step in the direction they keep proving that they could do.
Yeah. And I guess a couple of the things that feed my instinct is Netflix has now got a history of doing the surprising thing it said it would never do. So this would be the biggest example of that yet.
Yeah.
AMC Networks now makes more revenue off streaming than cable. The total number of subscribers to AMC Plus, Shudder, Acorn TV, and their other streaming outlets was 10.4 million as of the end of 2025. That's about the same year over year. So AMC now turned the corner. Pretty much everybody is in the streaming game and then trying to figure out how to keep their linear service from losing them too much money.
Yeah.
Roku's earnings beat expectations. It was the biggest quarter ever for net additions to premium subscriptions, a program that lets users subscribe to different streaming services through Roku. So like you can add HBO Max and Paramount Plus and just use your Roku login to manage them. It was interesting that the earnings report was not as bullish about ads. The ads were good, but they weren't touting that part of the business this time.
Yeah, I mean, we're just in a funny place with ads in general. Like nobody knows. Well, I don't know. But meanwhile,
I feel like Roku's been a bit of a leading indicator on this stuff. Like Roku was like, ooh, they're really getting into ads, right? As everybody was making ad supported versions of services and fast channels became hot and all of that. So I wonder if this is an indicator that we're swinging back the other way.
Yeah, I will say, I will vouch for that inside an ecosystem of managing your subscriptions. Boy, is there a need for that. If you're not doing it on Amazon or Apple Plus, then go ahead and do it on your Roku.
Yeah, and maybe that's all it is Roku's like, oh, no, the ad business is great, but the next thing that will grow is managing all your subscriptions for us. The Wheel of Time, intellectual property owner iWatt Studios and a VFX company called Framestore have struck a deal to launch an AI-enabled platform that will offer brand asset management tools to make it easier to collaborate on projects across multiple platforms. Currently, iWatt is developing at least 3 projects based on The Wheel of Time, an animated film, a live-action movie, and a AAA video game. And so this isn't creating things for the plots or the characters. This is helping everyone go like, okay, how do we keep these stories consistent?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Like computers got into the shape rotating game 30, 40 years ago, and now they're into the liberal arts game. And so now you can say to the word cloud, like, hey, which of these narrative threads are getting dropped that we need to make sure gets picked up over there?
Well, and if I have this character do this, does that violate anything he did in those other two properties that I'm not working on?
And it used to be that was the role of you either had a literal employed person whose job was to know all of the lore and the consistency, or you had a hyper elite dedicated group of super fans who, you know, even whether pro bono or as side hustles, for example, Stephen King's The Dark Tower had a concordance book that was sort of like the world Bible of all that stuff, that Stephen King, when he decided to burn through the last 3 books, was like, let me see them notes real quick.
Yeah. And I imagine, I don't know this, but I imagine they'll still need a person to do that, but this will make it easier for the person writing to not run afoul of that person, because you can just check real quick. And you'll still want someone to check in case the LLM got something wrong or missed something or something slipped through, but it'll speed things up.
Imagine like
finally Amazon.
Oh, I was going to say, like, I could picture it all the way down to a plugin level where as you're typing a scene, instead of a red squiggly line for typing or a blue squiggly line you know, it's a turquoise squiggly line for continuity.
Yeah. No, exactly. That would be cool. And finally, Amazon's Fire TV OS update, the one that we talked about during CES at the beginning of January, is rolling out to US users if you have a compatible Fire TV device. So look for the rounded edges on your icons and you'll know you have it. Let us hold on for the chatter.
You got mail.
Brian C. writes, it's just been announced that starting in March, my Sky TV subscription will include HBO Max, Disney Plus, and Hey You. It already includes Netflix, Paramount Plus, and Discovery Plus. As someone who always thought the bundled nature of cable TV was a feature, not a bug, this is brilliant. No more having to decide weeks in advance what services to subscribe to, watch what I want. Now I can just turn on the TV and decide, are bundles like this the future? All this has happened before, and all of this will happen again.
I mean, this is the thing about being mostly right, Tom. Yes, indeed. Reminder to everyone, we never had it out for the all-you-can-eat buffet style of cable television. It was their intractable contracts and restrictive arrangements that we didn't like.
And monopolies, right? And that's the one thing that doesn't, in this world where Sky is the place managing your subscriptions, they are not a monopoly because, or even a duopoly. They are another option for you over maybe your mobile phone company or Roku or Apple or Amazon or ... whatever your local version of that is. There is not just a single place where, well, if I want cable, I guess I go with Comcast because that's the only option I have.
Yeah.
Original Patreon contributor and follower Bruce says, I've followed you all the way back from the Tech TV days. Just logged into Patreon and upped my contribution, as we all should, and thought to drop a line. I will admit, y'all are my oldest employees. Can't believe you haven't quit or been fired. I got so excited a couple episodes ago when you mentioned microdramas. Then I realized you did not say micro-dramas. I was all into the thought of these short, dirty jobs or common man short stories of the real hardworking people out there that were somehow spicier than normal. Anyway, took me just a bit to catch on, and I found it quite humorous. West Texas rancher that likes listening to your show while making that drive out to the ranch every week. Guess I should put in the hearing aids, but thanks for all you do and keep doing it, Bruce.
Heck yeah, dude. If you want to become one of our beautiful bosses, head on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
And then finally, Danny said, I enjoyed your discussion about Amazon and AI. It seems best to accept that the technology isn't going anywhere and that people, the money and artists, are going to try and use it. I'll always bet on humans putting in effort to make something good. Eventually, a human is going to make something good with AI.
Yep.
Well, that is it for this episode of the best show in existence, Cordkillers. Come at us and explain why that isn't true. You can't. So come become a patron instead. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we are live at twitch.tv/nightattack and youtube.com/modern rogue. Tuesdays, 5:30 p.m. Eastern, 2:30 p.m. Pacific. I reckon we'll talk to you next time.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Nailed it. We did it.
Boom.
We did it. Did we lose Amos along the way? You could see off to the left. You can see the I'm letting the camera. Oh, good. There's an Amos.
There's Amos.
Hey-o.
I disappeared as to not be more of a distraction.
Ah, okay.
I wasn't sure if Tom could see me or if just you could see me or what, but I figured if I wasn't there at all, I wouldn't be a distraction.
What's funny is I saw your screen go black, and it was a little distracting because I wondered if you were trying to call in or something. That's funny. Points for almost. Well, I don't know. It went all right. We made it work.
That was speaking of being distracted. I realized that you were trying to keep the plane running while also doing drink service, and I appreciate how difficult that is.
Yeah, no, it was good. Here, let's see if there we go. What's funny is this thing it lacks enough battery to move, so it'll probably die. There you go. It does this like sleepy Batman Joker thing, and then falls down. We'll see whether or not.
So is it not plugged in, or is it plugged in and just not getting enough juice?
So I was trying to get away with an underpowered. There's one USB-C for data and another for power, and the thing to the wall was not a proper 25 watt thing, and so as a result, it always had enough battery to go. But I left it on all day today, and then right as we started the show, it just got below the threshold, and then I went and swapped it for one of the good power adapters, but
then you're shooting behind the eight ball.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Well, are you ready to get lost?
Yes. Ready, sir. We'll see whether or not this keeps going. All right. I'm all yours in. Wait, do we do? And I play the intro.
Yeah, we
right?
do the theme. Yep.
Okay. All right. Here we go.
It's the theme on open and close.
Yeah. Okay. And 3, 2.
Welcome to Cordkillers, the full experience. The full experience is an experiment, folks, where we watch 4 episodes of a TV show to see if we feel like we could talk as if we watched the entire thing. Do we get a sense of the entire run of the series? And we are beginning our adventure to watch that classic TV series, Lost. We will be watching the first, ultimate, lowest, and last. Ultimate being the highest rated on IMDb, lowest being the lowest rated on IMDb. And the first episode was, of course, Pilot Part 1, which first aired September 22nd, 2004. I'm Tom Merritt. He's Brian Brushwood.
Heck yeah, dude. So I have such vivid memories of this is back in the before times when I was BitTorrenting stuff, and I missed the hype at the time. And this would have been before DVDs were available, and it was novel to even be able to download full screen wide, relatively HD content. And I was just so amazed by the bigger than TV feel of it, the exotic locations, the incredible shot. Is before I knew enough of the storytelling experience to recognize a mystery box in front of me. Tom, it was a very different experience watching this all those years later. The first thing I noticed, or among my first thing I noticed, was it took me a while to see what was weird about it, but then I noticed there was a lot of 3x4 framing in the 16:9 format. And then also having seen the whole show, man, are there a lot of threads that don't point towards anything that matters on that show. What did you think?
Yes, we were joking while watching it. Don't worry if you're confused by this question. It will never be answered.
It will never come up again.
But I think it's a testament to Lost that you kind of don't care, right? Like at least the first time through. I don't know if it'll bother us in a different way doing it this way, but the first time through you were like, oh, I'm really interested in that question. And then you'd get distracted with other questions and other events and some answers and kind of forget about minor questions. And they were just riffing. I don't know if they had a kind of generalized end in mind. I feel like I've heard them say they did, but they didn't have a very specific plotted out, like every thread will have an answer end in mind. But it still ended up being a fun tale along the way. I first experienced Lost on the video iPod.
Wait, a 3x4 with letterboxing?
4:3 screen that was just, on a, diagonally the size of my thumb.
Yep.
Sitting on the bus going to work, watching it with headphones on because we didn't watch the first season. And it was really interesting to go from that to watching it on a tube TV, but a bigger screen and being able to see it. And then eventually by the end of the show, which is in 2010, we had an HD TV. We had a full screen 16:9 and Lost was airing in 16:9 by that point. If you had HD service, that you could get it. So it was quite the journey video wise. I loved Lost and would watch every episode twice once I got caught up because we got caught up during the second season. And I thought the characters were really compelling. Watching it now, just watching this first episode again sort of brought up echoes of that nostalgia, echoes of that feeling, but didn't necessarily give me the full punch that I had then of how fascinating these characters are. And I think that's a testament to the success of Lost because so many other shows have said, oh, we could do that, but we would improve on it. And they have.
Yep. And so now we get to nitpick, right? The worst part, however good I would have felt about this pilot was kind of undone by accidentally watching the first 3 minutes of the next episode because the next three
because we were realizing it says part 2, but it still aired a week later. So by the rules of the full experience, we have to limit ourselves to just the first episode.
Right. And then meanwhile, it's just when we're about to get into Charlie's story, and Charlie's story is much more interesting than Jack's. Jack is kind of deliberately beige, so he's neutral.
Especially in this first episode, which I had forgotten just how beige it starts.
Yeah. He's a guy. He's you. Don't worry about it.
They leave clues that you don't get, right? He pulls out a bottle of liquor. And I remember saying at the time while we were watching it, I remember seeing that and thinking, oh, he's going to need that for wounds. And now I have a different opinion on why he had that bottle of liquor. And then there's a little flashback that points that way a little more. But you don't immediately, and this is to their credit, they don't lay out immediately, this guy's an alcoholic, right? It's just if you're picking up on it, maybe you'll put that thought in your head, but we'll immediately have him pour it on a wound. So you're like, oh, well, I don't know. Maybe that's not why. Maybe it was just on the plane and he didn't want to drink it or whatever. I did think the opening was really well designed. I'd forgotten how good they are at doing the slow reveal. Now that we're talking about Jack, but I know what you mean. It is a Jack story in episode 1, and so that's all you're going to get.
Oh, let's talk about that opening stuff. There is really good layering of, it's a guy in a mysterious place and a dog and running. You get kinetic energy, and then just as it begins to get boring, it's like, whoa, a crash site, but don't show us the whole crash site. Show us individual vignettes in a panning or whatever. And then just when it's get about like, oh, I get it. Are they all taking care of each other? Nope. You get something that you've never seen on primetime television, a dude getting sucked into a moving airplane engine. And it's like, do I have your attention again? Yes, you do, my friend. And, it is really interesting how all of the practical effects, the flame wreckage, the long telephoto shots, all totally hold up. No, very little of the CGI did. It was very pyromania stock explosion effects. Overdone.
Well, and it's funny how like it's easy to criticize that now because our eyes have learned to discern. But back then, especially on the smaller 4:3 tube screens that most of us were watching it on, it didn't feel that way. It did not feel like, oh, this is a underdone thing. It felt amazing, right? Because we just didn't have the literacy of TV effects that we do now.
Yeah. It mostly held up. I really enjoyed how much of the pilot included the pilot. Our friend Greg Grunberg was a significant character who for a hot second you think is going to be, oh, are we meeting another leader person? No.
Yes.
He gets Godzilla'd.
And you don't know why.
You'll never know why.
What was the and then someone, I can't remember.
There was a moment, the Australian pregnant lady talks about.
I saw some smoke through the valley.
Yeah. There was smoke over there.
Yeah. Lots of questions go unanswered. Commercial breaks were less smooth too. I've noticed now, even if it's made for streaming, shows like Hacks will have commercial breaks because they have a commercially supported version of the service. But they're very good at making them smooth so that if you don't have commercials interrupting, you don't even notice. But Lost was still doing the thing that was pretty standard at the time of like restart a couple of seconds before the end of the last scene to remind you what happened before the commercial break.
And that is around this time, Tom, I'll bet that they were doing that based on the structural artifact of TiVo commercial skippers. Because remember, you would play that game of you would skip commercials, and if you got into the content, you would evaluate, did you want to go back and play the gambling game?
I mean, they might have been, but I know that if you watch any show, like Miami Vice did the same thing.
Sure.
Where you'd come back from commercial. And
in that case, it's coming back from the bathroom.
Yeah, they knew, like, even if you watched it all the way to the end and then went to the bathroom, you've done a bunch of things in the meantime, right? And you're like, wait, where did it end? And so that was just good behavior back then. I don't know. Should we find out if Amos enjoyed his return to Lost?
Yeah. You're a veteran, right? Yeah. Are you going back to the island? Are you more of a season 5 person or a season 1 person?
There's so much I want to say about this. First of all, I loved it. I love this trip down memory lane of watching the show. To set the stage, when this came out in 2006 or 2004, 2004, we had just PCS from Okinawa, Japan to Hawaii. They broke our TV in the move, so they gave us money to buy a new TV. So we had just bought a widescreen like HD TV.
Nice.
So this was the first show we were watching in HD. It was the only channel available in HD in Hawaii at the time. We were on Oahu, so we got to go see the wreckage. We were all about the show. My ex-wife and I, we would watch the show religiously. I would actually go and torrent a copy of the show because I was in Hawaii, so it came out later. So I could watch it by myself and pay attention to the details. And then as soon as that was over, the show would start on our TV broadcast and I'd watch it again.
Oh, wow.
So
great example of torrenting and not discouraging consumption of the actual content. Right?
Yeah, no, it just gave me a preview. So when my ex-wife was asking me questions about the show during the show, I wasn't annoyed at it.
And you had answers.
Yeah, I meant to watch this on DVD because we have the DVDs, and I was just going to pop a DVD in the old Mac and watch it there. Couldn't find the DVD. I had to watch it on whatever service it's on, Paramount, Peacock, whatever. A lot of the things that annoyed me about this episode the first time I watched it, because I have not watched it since I finished the series. The engine still running, even though it didn't have power, air, or fuel. Some of the other little nitpicky things, that all that is washed away by the ending. Now that I know how it ends and the whole concept of the show, all that is forgiven because it fits in that narrative. The show itself,
Oh,
so much nostalgia.
that's interesting. I
love it.
don't think we're being too spoilery to say that some weird stuff happens on the island. Some reality bending things happen on the island throughout the entirety of the series, but you don't know that going into that very first episode.
Yeah.
Right.
And if anybody is wondering, based on what Amos said, it's on Disney Plus / Hulu because it's ABC properties.
There you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved it. I thought the character development, the pacing was really good. I didn't catch the crappy CGI that Brian was talking about, probably because my compression was already crap, being that I had to stream it. But yeah, I loved it, and it revitalized that feeling of mystery that I had about these. You know so much about the show because we watched it, right? But like, how much is going to be revealed in this episode? And watching the episode and seeing these little things go through, and like, yes, that did come through, and that didn't. That meant something. That means absolutely nothing. And there's a lot of things that I caught this time that I hadn't noticed played a part later that they were starting to reveal this time, such as the relationship between Charlie and
Pregnant Australian lady.
name? Yeah.
Claire.
Yeah. And then things like Boone and his sister and their how they interact
Well,
with each other.
you
and how
don't know
they
that they're brother and
later.
sister at this point. You,
Right.
in fact, they're
right.
kind of trying to lead you to think they're a couple.
Yeah. Yeah. See? All these things. I love
I was noticing that, the fun bit about Locke showing up. I don't think he says a word in this entire episode, but he shows up in places that otherwise are filled with extras, just to kind of seed him into your mind as a background character.
A very mysterious
also-
and interesting background character. What with the scar on the eye and the eye locking, that moment that he smiles with an orange in his mouth, and then it turns out, wait, is he not smiling? He's just eating it. Is that a scowl? What? It's a good performance. That was a really electric moment.
Yeah, and just Locke's whole story, and once you learn his story, this episode makes so much more sense in how he's framed and how he seems to be enjoying what other people like. He's sitting in the rain enjoying it, while other people are running for shelter. Well, you kind of understand why when you start learning the story. It just, a lot of things were led to that weren't overt, and I really, really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I think one theme running through all our commentary here is it's impossible to watch this episode as if you've never seen Lost before, if you've seen Lost before.
Well, and that was
there's
what
just too much stuff in
I
it.
wanted to ask you is, where do we go from here? Because we go from this to the ultimate experience, which I assume is some big cliffhanger.
Season 4, episode 5. So not even like a season ender. The Constant, which aired in 2008 on February 28th. The Constant, I remember becoming a very important thing from a character that we are seasons away from meeting in the pilot. In fact, he may be a season 4 newbie, but yeah, we're going to jump right into the middle of the run of this, because it's a 6-season long run.
That'd be great. And in fact, I don't want to think or look too hard on it, because I want to savor what the confusion must feel like to actually be this your only experience.
And definitely, because there's going to be a lot of things that are different from the freshly plane crashed. Tailies were the other group that were in the tail, and at this point we don't know if any of them survived or where they are. I can't remember if there was a name for the folks that we meet at the beginning.
Yeah.
No, because you had the Tailies and the others.
Yeah.
Yeah, but did the tailies have a name for the nose cones or the midsections?
For the midsections? I don't think so.
Yeah. All right. Well, please watch along with us. Once again, the next episode is the highest rated on IMDb, The Constant, episode 5 of season 4, which first aired February 28th, 2008. You get these episodes early, and you get to hear us discuss which of these series we're going to watch as the full experience and get to weigh in on that if you are a patron. So become one right now if you're not already. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. We'll talk to you next time.
Nailed it.
Good job, everybody.
All
Thank
right.
you for watching.
Yep. So long, stream.
We
We'll
love
see you
you.
guys. Patrons get the rest. Be a patron. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. We've upped our commitment to you. We want you to up yours.